Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are tackling a huge question. It's one a lot of people have when they pick up an ancient book, especially the Bible. How does any of this actually connect to my life right now? It's a massive challenge of relevance that stretches across thousands of years.
And look, it's a totally fair question, right? How on earth do we take wisdom from a world of sandals and scrolls and make it work in our world of sneakers and smartphones? Honestly, it can feel like you're trying to use a map for a country that doesn't even exist anymore.
You know, there's actually a name for this gap. It's often called the two horizons problem. Just look at this. On one side, you've got the biblical horizon, a world of Roman emperors, shepherds, and temple worship. And on the other, you've got our world, smartphones, a global economy, social media. At first glance, they seem like two totally different planets.
But here's the good news. There is a way to close that gap, a method for building a bridge between these two worlds. So, in this explainer, we're going to walk through the actual blueprint for that bridge. We'll cover the problem, how to build a bridge itself, how to cross it, and what it looks like to get to the other side, ready for some real action. The source material for this has a fantastic name for this whole process. It's called Merging the Horizons. I love that, because it's not about ignoring their world or ours. It's about bringing them together to find one single, powerful meaning that works for us today. So here it is, the blueprint. It's a simple but really profound four-step process. Okay, step one, you've got to do the homework and really understand their world. What was actually going on back then? Step two, figure out the core teaching, the main point God was making in that specific situation. Step three, now you look at our world and ask, okay, what's the parallel here? What's our version of that? And finally, step four, you take that timeless teaching and apply it to our modern situation.
And this, of course, is the big hurdle, isn't it? What do you do when there's just no obvious modern equivalent? For instance, the source brings up a great example from the book of Revelation. Early Christians were being told they had to worship the Roman emperor as a god. I mean, most of us aren't facing that exact demand today. So, does that make the text useless for us?
No, not at all. And here's the key. You have to see that this command, don't worship the emperor, was what our source calls a particular truth. It was a very specific application of a bigger idea, for a specific group of people at a specific moment in history. Because hiding right underneath that particular truth is a universal truth. This is the core principle that applies to everyone, everywhere, at any time. In this case, that universal truth is about where you place your ultimate loyalty. Back then, the particular threat was the emperor. Today, for us, it might be our career, or money, or our reputation. The core principle, give your primary allegiance to God, is exactly the same.
So here's the crucial point. Once you've done the work, you've built the bridge, you've found that universal truth, the journey is so not over. In fact, it's just getting started. Because understanding is just the starting line. Now you actually have to do something.
Our response has to be an active one, and the source suggests three main forms this can take. First, prayer. Actually talking to God about what you just figured out. Second, deepening fellowship, which is really about strengthening your personal trust and relationship with Him. And finally, the big one, action, actually changing the way you live. Now, this quote here is a really powerful warning. The author talks about meeting these students who were praying for hours and hours every day, but they hardly ever read their Bibles. Think about that. Their prayers were passionate, for sure, but they were undirected. The lesson is crystal clear. Our response has to be informed by what we're learning. Otherwise, it's like we're just talking without listening first.
And this leads us to a super important distinction. It's not just about responding, it's about responding adequately. There is a world of difference between knowledge that just sits in your head and a truth that completely changes your life.
Let's just break this down. Look at the contrast. An inadequate response is totally passive. It's just noting a fact, or maybe making some vague plan for someday, or just filing it away as another piece of trivia. But an adequate response, that's active. It pulls you into prayer, it deepens your trust in God, and it always leads to concrete, specific action.
And to really hammer this point home, the source shares this incredible story about what happens when head knowledge gets challenged by the need for real-world action.
So get this. There's a seminary student who is convinced God has called him to study. But then, he gets so busy doing ministry work that he completely stops doing his homework, his actual coursework. He goes to his professor and says, "Sorry, I'm just too busy to continue my studies." The very thing he said God called him to do in the first place.
Now here's the brilliant part. The professor doesn't argue, he doesn't give a lecture, he just quietly opens the Bible and has the student read this verse from Luke out loud. Jesus' words, "No one who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is fit for service in the kingdom of God." Ugh.
And man, the student was furious at first. But he went home, he kept rereading that verse, and he prayed about it. And that led to a truly adequate response. He realized the professor was right. He completely changed his priorities, and he went on to finish his degree. That's it. That's prayer, deeper fellowship, and concrete action, all rolled into one.
And that right there, that is the entire point of this whole journey. The bridge we've been talking about, it isn't built just so we can stand back and admire it. It's built for us to cross. The final, absolutely crucial, non-negotiable step is to turn what we know into how we actually live.
Okay, so why is this action step so essential? Why is it the whole goal? The source really boils it down to two huge reasons.
First off, it's literally the playbook Jesus used. At the end of his most important teachings, he almost never said, "Now go think about this." He said, "Go and do this." And second, action is actually part of how we learn. It's only when we try to live out a teaching that we finally begin to grasp its true depth. It stops being an abstract idea and becomes a lived-in reality.
Which, of course, brings us to the final question, the one that's just for you. Building the bridge from the ancient world to ours is an amazing thing, but it's incomplete until we actually walk across it. So, how about you? What knowledge in your life is just sitting there, waiting to become action?